Hey, Mark. Hey, man, child. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Not working too hard. All right. Yeah, I hear that, Mike. My weekends are always busy. Usually trying to get some work done outside, which is what I did this morning. So I thought I was going to take a look at some of my cars from, I had a club race yesterday, so, hey, nobody's home. We ran this set of Vipers as our IROC cars, so I just want to kind of take a look at, this is the second time we ran these cars, so these probably gonna need a bit of a tune-up at some point soon. I want to see what the brushes look like on those, and this car and this car I ran. This was my spec racer, and this was my ceramic super stock car. This was my spec stock class car, which is basically a Viper with a hard body. And this I ran in box stock, which is basically a Super 7, also with a hard body. Yeah, there's always those honeydews. So my Super 7 actually ran pretty good. I had a fourth place finish in box stock with this car. Not too far out from a third place finish. So I had two fourth place finishes yesterday, which, since I've been racing with my club now, this is probably the fifth or sixth race, I think. But, I was new to the whole club racing scene, so getting a little better each time. But my previous best was a fifth place finish. Um, so yesterday I had two fourth place finishes. So in the IROC class, I finished fourth. I could have had a third place finish. I kind of messed up my last heat in IROC, but yeah, the Super 7 is basically based off of a Tommy Turbo Bulldog type motor, but it actually has the same rear magnet clip as a Viper. So if you look at the rear part of a Super 7, this is a Super 7, this is a Viper. They're very similar, the rear magnet clip. The magnets are similar and they clip similar, other than they're shorter. They're a little stubbier than the Viper magnet. So it's kind of like, to me, it's like a hybrid of a Viper and a Tommy Turbo. SRT or Bulldog type because of the can motor. But this car ran pretty well. Did decent. Just a few laps out of a third place finish in both the IROC class and the box stock class. This car surprisingly didn't do as well as I thought. This car ran good for me, and I thought it ran well in practice, but I don't know. I ended up with a sixth place, 6 out of 9 drivers. I think we had 9 drivers yesterday. So I don't know. I didn't do as well as I thought I was going to do in the spec stock class. I think I'm going to look into tweaking the rear tires on this spec stock class car. And then I did decent in ceramic super stock. I had a 5th place finish, not too far out of 4th place. Hey Rich, just kind of doing a post analysis of my racing results from yesterday, and my biggest disaster, which I was disappointed in, is the spec racer class, which is on this car. I think I was crashing a little too much, and maybe not pushing it as fast as I needed to as well. I got to look when they post the results. I didn't take pictures of the results on this one. I don't know how far out of like 4th or 5th I was, but I do remember I came in 6th in this class, which disappointed me. But this spec racer class was a disaster for me. I somehow did not pass tech. My front axle was too wide, and we were using my tech block, and I was teching cars, and my own car didn't pass tech. So that was a bit embarrassing. So I ran over and I changed out the front end from one of my other Fusions. I just pulled the whole front end similar to this white plastic one from not this car but another car, and when I put it on, it kind of felt like you know how something you kind of know is not right, but you're like, it'll be okay. Well, the retainer didn't feel to me as tight as it should be when I put that other front end on and took it back to tech, and it passed tech, and I went with it. Well, I paid the price for that loose retainer because we were doing 3-minute heats. My front end fell off of the car, the retainer, and the wheel came off. So that was pretty embarrassing. Fortunately, it was towards the end of the first heat, though it's killed my first heat. I think I missed like the last, 30 seconds. And we have a minute or so in between each heat, so I was able to run over and fix that situation and run the rest of the race. So even with that happening, I still managed a 6th place finish in spec racer. So this car was running so good too, and so strong in practice before the race, and just didn't expect it to not pass tech. I've since fixed it, and this is the front end I had on it that was too wide. I had spacers that I guess were a little too wide, and it didn't fit in the tech block. Oh, I always have fun. It's just not like me to. I can't believe I built the car. This is my newest Fusion that I just built. I can't believe. I guess I forgot to check the front end in the tech block when I built it. Hey, Adam. But hey, it happens. I mean, guys were spinning pinion gears yesterday, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But this IROC race was a lot of fun. We at the Vero Beach track where we raced yesterday. He has one Wizard 4 lane track, which is a nice track. I've shown it before. It's a big track. It's at least 20-foot long table. But he added a second HO track that is I think it's a TKO track or something like that. But um, it's a 6 lane track. It's not as technical. It's a faster track, a lot of big curves, probably good for like T-Jet type cars. And it's wired with these house controllers because it's a mobile track. The guy takes it to events and stuff, and he wasn't able to set it up where we could use our own controllers. So it had these house like Parma single resistor controller, and man, the controller was like an on-off switch for me. Like I would squeeze it and nothing would happen, and then the car would just take off. So we ran the 4 middle lanes. We only used 4 of the 6 lanes, and we ran these cars. And it was so funny. You know, we got all these experienced racers, and they were sending these cars flying. They were like halfway across the floor. They were flying everywhere. But once we started getting the hang of it, we got in the groove. But it was funny. Yeah, that's the thing, Mike. I'm so paranoid and I'm usually so detailed that I do check. I even worked on all my cars too before the race the night before, but I obviously I didn't tech this one. But yeah, definitely learned a lesson to triple check them. Lesson 3 is to don't trust lesson 1 and 2. Hey, Matt. So I do want to look at these cars. I want to see how they look. This car, my buddy Dan, one of the racers there, he's always building Fusions. He had like a bunch of extra. This is one of his older cars that he actually gifted to me. I was driving it and I was like, yeah, this is nice, but I don't think it runs quite as good as the Fusion Super Stock I built. But I liked how smooth it was. I said, yeah, it's a real nice car. And he gave it to me. I was at my bench working on my cars, and I said, "Oh, what is this? If I change my mind?" He's like, "No, you can keep it." So he gave me a. This is an expensive gift, expensive car. I mean, it's like how much these Fusions cost. So I could tell it's been used. It's probably one of his older cars. The front aluminum front end's got some wear and tear to it, and uh, somebody etched like the number 2 in the back. So I don't know if this was their backup car or not, but it's got a nice RPM epoxied trued balanced armature in it. It wasn't overly fast on the track, but I'm thinking I could probably rework this. And what's that?
No, you had a muffin, but you can have some lemon cake.
My wife's bringing me snacks. Thanks, son. Look, junk food, lemon cake to go with the coffee I just made. So perfect. Sorry, I'm gonna eat while I talk with you guys. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool that he gave me this car. He's been known to do that. He's given guys cars before, so yeah. So I'm gonna play around with this later and see how it looks inside. Actually, I'm gonna take this apart now and Or I might look at my Vipers. I don't know. I could definitely see a little bit of physical damage, like that corner plastic broke on that one, and also on that one. But that's why those guards are there. But these things were, like I said, they were going flying across the room and landing on the cement floor. So surprised they survived the whole race. So. Let's take a look at these things are definitely rubbing on the rails. Got them pretty low. These things could probably use new pickup springs, pickup shoe springs. Springs are probably not as good as they should be anymore, tension-wise. Those are just stock Viper number 8 springs. I'm just curious to see how these brushes and end bells look on these cars. Hi, Miller Time. Miller Time would like a Miller Lite body, huh? I always did like this body. I like the color. I like how he did the decals inside, so they'll never ever get scraped or come off. The commutator actually doesn't look horrible. Yeah, these brushes are getting a little bit worn. This will focus or not. Those are about worn halfway, oh, maybe a little over halfway actually, that bottom one. But they still got a little bit of life in them. They got at least another race in them. Oh, no problem. All of these NASCAR Lexan bodies were painted by Jay Jap. You can reach out to Jay on Facebook Messenger, JAAP. He does good work. I've bought a lot of bodies from him. He usually sells them 3 for 20. I'm sorry, 3 for 50. Either 20 a piece or 3 for 50. And he pins them and trims them and ships them to your door for that price. So. I'm gonna clean this real quick. Pretty good. Let's put this back together. Wow, 22 people. That's cool. You'd think that many would be hanging around on a Sunday afternoon. And I don't blame anybody if they don't stay along. I'm not doing anything very exciting other than working on cars. This stuff I like to do, so I could do this all day long. It's like relaxing therapy to me. See how these gears look. Crown gear looks pretty good. Pinion gear looks good. These are just stock Viper gears, but Viper gears are decent. They're pretty tough. Clean these pickup shoes real quick. Usually buff the bottom where the spring touches it as well. I try to buff in this little slot too. These were new when I put them on, so they got a little bit of a groove in them from the full race. And get another race out of these pickup shoes. Yeah, I agree with you there, Miller. Perfect for slot cars. I think since I have this apart, these look pretty clean. I must have buffed those the last time I took this apart. So the hangers look pretty good. I'm not going to mess with them. All right, put this back together real quick. There it is. So you want to make sure you have that notch on the timing bracket, facing the end bell because it locks in there. then the two tabs are on the top on that bracket as well. I always build the car with the end bell to my left. It's just how I do it. Clean these magnets real quick, these motor magnets. See what kind of gunk comes off them. Yeah, a little bit dirty. At least I can kind of still see the white dash on that one magnet. So the magnet with the white mark goes on the top if you have your end bell to the left. The other magnet goes on the other side. That's it. It's ready to go back in. I did, Stephen. I looked at it. It was fine. I tweaked it. One of the brushes needed a little bit of tweaking, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't point that out though. I just did it. The brushes again. These are my IROC cars, so I'm not too overly concerned about it. Let me take it apart and show you. You could teach us something. If I can get this damn thing to focus on my phone, sorry. Yeah, see they're getting some wear in them, but what do you tweak it for? Timing? I usually tweak it for where the brush sits when I move the one ear down and the other ear up. I mean, it's not like a Fusion end bell. It's a little, the brushes don't sit exactly like they do in a Fusion. Well, what's your secret to tweaking it? I don't see how that, with the way these brushes sit, how you can get the leading, unless you really bend it and pull it back. You have to do that much manipulating of these arms to kind of, I see what you're talking about. So you're saying to have just the kind of like a Fusion looks where just the edges are touching? Oh, no worries, Miller. This is not for everybody. This is, yeah, I haven't, Steven, I haven't really tweaked my Viper end bells that extensively for the timing. I mostly tweak mine for the pressure on the comm, just to at least make sure that's decent, but I haven't really, if I want to mess around with the timing, I kind of just move the end bell on these Vipers. But I'll have to try that. I'll have to get some practice at that. I know I have a couple of yours in some of my cars, but Lord knows where they ended up. You did send me a couple. I don't. You know how it goes. We've built so many cars. I have no idea which cars those are in. Let me get a new end bell. Hold on. So you guys can see this is a brand new out of the package Viper end bell. And you can see how the brushes kind of sit right on top of each other. What Steven's talking about, if you look at this Fusion, see how the edges of the brushes are touching, the leading edges. So you can get advanced timing that way. That's what I like about these Fusions, at least in my opinion. They come pretty well tweaked. A little minor adjustment on the tension is about all I do on these Fusions. So Wizard is kind enough to do the work for you. This one might not be a brand new end bell. I don't remember. I might have used this. That's why I race Fusions and not Vipers. I had 2 4th place finishes out at Vero yesterday, Steven. That was my best placing to date with the FO Florida HO guys. 5th place was my previous, so I'm moving up in the ranks. I was only a couple of laps out from a podium, actually, from a 3rd place finish. So. Yep, but man, you know, there's a couple of guys in my group that they astound me how good they are, how good of a driver they are. Like these guys come in 1st and 2nd every time, and it's not their cars because they drive my car and use my controller and they drive it amazing. I mean, they usually win by 20 laps or more over the next place. It's ridiculous. At least the first and 2nd place guys, 20 to 30 laps, literally, they're winning races by from the third and 4th place positions. It's impressive. Hey, I'm a much better driver now than I was when I started club racing, so I'm happy I'm competitive. You know, I mean, out of 10 to yesterday, there was only 9 drivers, but I've had races where there's been 13, 14 drivers, and you know, I'm coming in 5th and 6th place out of 13, 14 guys. I'm okay with that. Well, this is one of those armatures. It just doesn't have this. I think that added spring is a gimmick. I think if you tune this right and put the right tweaks on the brushes, you don't really need those springs. I don't know. That's just me. I think that's... Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never tried one with the spring in it. You know, maybe if they did the work for me and I pay a few more bucks, I would be willing to try one to see if it made any difference, but I really don't. I don't know. Seems like a lot of work. You gotta stick a spring from, I think they were saying the spring from like a magnet traction brush works or something like that. I don't even know which spring, but I mean, I get it. I get the theory of putting more pressure on the brush, but you don't want to put too much pressure either. You could have too much pressure. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But man, Steven, you must have to tweak these quite a bit to get the leading edges on these Viper end bells. That would require a good amount of kind of bending and tweaking of these, because they're sitting like right on top of each other. Kind of have to pull this up and back and this one down and back, kind of over to get them. Knowing me, I would ruin the arms. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to do the work and play around with it. Um, it's always fun to learn new things and try new things on your cars. I'm glad I checked those end bells. I only have one end bell left for my fusions. I gotta place some orders. No, the fusion end bell does not work in a Viper. It won't clip in properly. All right, let me slap this V-spec back together here. How much tension do you like to put on your? I usually have it so that the edge of the bottom edge of the brush comes all the way down to like the bottom of the opening for the uh, bushing. The same thing with the top. Or do you even go past that? Adam, you kill me with those extractions. That's an inside joke with the Adam and I and the extraction. Adam's trying to get me to be an Auto World fan. You ain't kidding, Mike. And that new OS3 controller. Well, you know what I love about my group? Those top guys, they're so generous with their time and showing me things and how they adjust the controller. And it's great. I learn something new every race. I wish we raced more than once a month. I so look forward to the racing, but no, Rich, you're the king of the Auto World pick kit. Thanks, Steven, for stopping by. Appreciate your time. My first Fusion was built by Steven. That's this car. This car got some race time yesterday when my other. Oh, Steven probably wasn't here to hear that my retainer on my front end came off during the spec class race and my front axle went flying off. It was so embarrassing. Yeah, it wasn't on your car, Steven, so don't worry. Your car, the front end has never been taken off, so those retainers are on there good. It was a crappy um, RPM front end. The RPM hubs, I don't know, they just don't hold. Like this is an RPM hub. They don't seem to hold their grip very good if you take them off and on a few times. I think you need to use Loctite more with his stuff. At least that's my opinion. You just have to take the traction magnets out. Out of what? Anyway, let's this may not be Rooster Racing tweaked quality, but for a IROC car, it's gonna do. I'm gonna have to learn how to do them like Steven does. So give me something to learn. Though, like I said, I don't really race Vipers that much at the club level, so I'm not overly concerned about it on the Vipers. Though it would be nice to get as much performance as you can, obviously, out of your cars. So when you're putting this motor in, obviously you gotta make sure the magnets are in place. It kind of falls in there like that. Make sure your bushing is in the opening where it's supposed to be, and then the end bell tabs are sitting on the hanger. So this is the one area where you want to spend a little time, and don't just push that down, or you'll shear off the ears off the end bell. So you got to kind of get a little screwdriver, and I kind of do a combination of going from underneath and prying it forward. Sometimes I can grab this little circle here and push it forward, or right next to the ear with a little screwdriver, pry it. But you want to make sure that so both these tabs are behind the hangers now. Kind of hard to see, but oop, I don't know if that one popped out or not. All right, now it's good. All right. Give this a little bit of oil. Okay. It feels pretty good, pretty smooth, considering the abuse this car took yesterday. It's in pretty good condition. You rely on tire grip, so you're like a T-Jet fan, Miller time. You like low downforce type of racing action. So did I show you guys? I just built this brass weight car, low downforce Viper. So it's got the new weights that Viper came out with. It has the 2 round weights under the front, and it has brass front end and a brass rear end to give it some weight. So this is fun. I took this for a ride the other day. First time I ever built a kind of like a gravity type car, and it ran pretty good. I turned the track down to like, I don't know, 15 volts, something like that. And yeah, it was fishtailing, but it was staying on and it was handling pretty good considering I'm used to pretty high downforce cars. This was kind of fun. I might build a few more of these, just maybe have a set of 4 so we can mix it up a little bit. All right, so this car, make sure it runs. We'll put it on the dyno real quick. Now it's hitting the 4.0 on the dyno, so for a 4.03 for a V-spec stock car, doing pretty good. Pretty quick. All right, Miller Lite is ready for its next race. 1 down, 3 to go. I want to take a look at this Fusion that was given to me. I want to take it apart and see how this thing looks. No wobbly wheels. Yeah, that's the sound of pretty much all the Vipers. You buy a Viper and you're getting into a more serious level of a slot car for sure. These are not stock pickup shoe springs for Fusion that Dan put in there. I'm going to see what this end bell looks like on this car. This is a ceramic car, so these are actually ceramic magnets. Actually, that's looks like a brand new end bell practically. See if I can get some more light on the subject here. There's definitely some good life left on those brushes. Oh, this is probably why this car is not going as fast as it should. Is needs way more tension on this top brush. Always seems like the top brush loses tension. Bottom brush comes up a good amount, but it looks better. Definitely got more pressure on the brushes. How much does it cost to build a race-ready car after aftermarket? Do you mean a Viper, the dude? Yeah, exactly, Mike. Gotta pay if you really want to play with the big boys. He's got two spacers in here. I'm curious to see how he had this on. Ah, shoot. I almost sent that flying. I like to see how other people space and build their cars. He's got how many Teflon spacers did he have? Just one. Well, take for example what I did to these IROC cars. So this was a stock V-Spec, which is a 40. You could start with a V-Spec. I mean, or you can get each individual part and build it individually. Well, if you want to go with like a hot stock 6 ohm balanced armature, which is mostly what I race, this is a stock non-balanced, like $5 armature. So this car normally does not come with these upgraded magnets with the V type flared out wing. These magnets cost $10 for the set. I put an independent front end on here. Independent front end is like $7, and then another couple of bucks for the tires. So you're at almost $10 for the independent front end. So that's $20 right there just for those magnets and the front end. And then if you were to upgrade to a better hot stock armature, that's anywhere from $15 to $20 for a decent hot stock. Like this car has a hot stock armature that's balanced and trued and epoxied. This is a $15 armature. This is armature I got from Steven from Rooster Racing. These are really good. The Joker armature. This is a $20 armature. So you're looking at 10, 20. You're looking at about $40 right there just in upgrade parts, and then you didn't even start messing around with, like, I build my own rear ends with better gears and a better axle and custom hubs and tires. So by the time you're done, it's over $100. And these cars right from Wizard are like $112, and this one's kind of modified even a little more from what you would get from Rooster. I'm sorry, from Wizard. So, you're looking at to really hop up all the way, like a spec racer class car. You're looking at $100, close to it. And then you got to add a body, like a Lexan body. And these go anywhere from $20, $30 just for one body. Or you could paint your own for very cheap. If you're good at painting or have the means to paint your own bodies. Some guys paint their own bodies literally just with a can of spray paint for the racing at the club because they don't care what the car looks like as long as they can see it. They're just going to crash it anyway. Hey, Machine Slot Car Underground. Like this is one of my custom built Vipers that I built. So this has RPM gears, RPM hub, a hardened splined axle, a Rooster Racing Joker armature, hot stock armature, the maxi traction magnets, independent front end. This car has a silver plated electrical system actually. So yeah, this car with the body is probably like 120 or more. But you don't really need that for your home racing around your track. I mean, a stock Viper a stock Viper chassis alone is $45, and you could put your own body on it, or you can buy a complete car from Viper for like $63. Not cheap by any means, but it's a very good car, very good running car. That's cool, dude. Yeah, I mean, you can. I would say start with getting a V spec right from Viper and then see what you think of that. Even a bone stock Viper V spec is pretty darn fast compared to your stock cars that you're used to running. Like your Tycos or your AFX Magna Traction or T-Jet type cars. Surprised that we had that spaced. I mean, the brushes were running more to the top side of the com. I think I'm only going to put one of these two spacers back that he had in here. First, I want to clean this. Yeah, I've seen those Formula Vs. I haven't. I think they're pretty much like a V spec as far as the chassis that's in those. I don't think there's anything special to the chassis on them. But correct me if I'm wrong. The main thing that you're gonna need to get spare parts wise for a Viper are the pickup shoes. You'll definitely want to keep a good number of spare shoes because these will literally run. I have them where they go right through the shoe and there's a hole to the other side. I mean, they last for a while, but definitely pickup shoe springs, and at some point you're going to need to change the end belt because the brushes will eventually wear. But the brushes last quite a while too. It all depends how much racing you do. But pickup shoes for sure. And maybe some pickup shoe springs. For a stock V-Spec, you can get away with the 008 springs. If you get into the higher, like these Maxi traction magnets, you could go up to like 009 as well. I like a little bit stiffer spring, so I use the 09 on most of my cars. But yeah, I guess at some point you're gonna need some tires. I haven't actually worn out. Well, I take that back. On my silly sponge tires, I'm always wearing out and damaging, so I have to replace these quite often, and these are expensive. And I'm not the biggest fan of these albinos because of how easily they chip. See, I was racing yesterday, and I put a chip in that tire. I like the purple RPM tires a little bit better because they're pretty stiff. And maybe not quite as stiff as the albino, but they don't tear or chip as easy as those white albino tires. And I get these gray tires from Steven at Rooster Racing. I really like these tires. I forget where he said he gets these from, but I have several pairs that I got from him. I don't really agree with that, Mike. I don't think the magnets remove the racing aspect. The cars are so fast and the motors are so powerful, you kind of need a little downforce to keep the car on the track. I mean, none of the cars I run will just stick to the track. If you go all out on your throttle, you're going to send that car flying off the track. So there's a lot of driving skill involved, even with these magnet cars. But if you're somebody that likes the low, the drift and slide, and I'm not that guy. The T-Jets are just too slow for me. They don't do anything for me. But that's what's fun about this hobby is whatever you like, do it. I personally get a kick out of seeing 4 Fusions going flying around the track when we race at the club. But that's me. But I get it, Miller time. Everybody has their own kind of what they like. Nothing wrong with that. I don't like to hear when guys say that you don't need any kind of driving skill to drive these cars, because that's ridiculous. That's not true. So. It's all what you like. I got times where I like to chill out and I break out my Magna Traction cars and I like to just kind of mellow out. And usually in the Sunday mornings when I'm having some coffee and I come in the garage, I just want to slow it down a little. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Machine slot car underground. Yeah, I mean, this stuff that I'm doing here is definitely not for everybody. I mean, if I didn't get into club racing and get into that level, I wouldn't be buying these Fusions. If I was still running on my little AFX track on my living room floor, I'd be racing my Mega G Plus cars probably. And I'd be thinking they were badass. Because when I got those cars, I thought they were badass. I wish I had some neighbors that like to race, but it's not the case. Well, I don't know. I haven't really asked my neighbors. I mentioned it to a few of them. They kind of gave me that look like, what? Toy cars? You know? How old are you? You know, if you're not a slot car person, you're not a slot car person. But all right, I am gonna put this back together here. Let me see how this. Let me see how this end bell, how this armature sits in here. That looks pretty good. I like it so that I can see a little bit of the copper on the armature, on the commutator. All right, let's put this back together. Again, the Fusions build, they go the same way as a Viper with the white dot on top. I do like that the hangers are molded right into the end bell. Makes it real easy to build these cars. Yeah, no, you definitely, I hear that about having the time. I mean, I still work full time myself, so I do this when I have time. Yeah, I agree with you there, Mike. The controller is key. I can't even, you know, it's funny. I'm just like anybody else. When I started, I was like, oh, I was using the stock the stock like AFX controller, and I thought that was fine. And then you get a real controller, and you're like, oh my god, how did I use this other controller for so long? And it's, I think most guys have a similar revelation. Some guys are a little stubborn, like, they get daunted by the cost. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're exactly super cheap, a decent controller, but, if you're going to really get serious about the hobby, not even super serious like racing, but if you're going to drive your slot cars quite a bit on your home track and get into different types of cars, having a good controller, once you get that good controller in your hands, I think they understand, and they're like, oh yeah, this was worth every penny. At least that's how I was when I got my first really good control, my DeFalco. Even the DS controller I had first, that was the The DS was the first one I bought above the stock controller, and I thought that was great. But the DeFalco was much nicer than the DS controller. Sorry, my hands in the way. And now that I took that one front spacer out, there's a little too much space there. I really would like to tighten that up a little bit. I would need like a 5,000 spacer in there. Well, let me see, what do we have in here? Yeah, but you got to be understanding it. Not, soldering, so for some people is like, you might as well be telling them to get out like an arc welder, or a torch and start welding, because they look at you like you're crazy. And I get that. Not everybody has that skill set or even knows what a soldering iron is. I try to. I think we start to take for granted the skills we have and what we know. Not all guys are like that, or mechanically inclined, or handy like that. But, we've been in the hobby, and we like doing that stuff. But so the key when you're racing is to not look at other cars. You don't try to race against somebody. It will be not good results. When you're racing, you just focus on your car and you do as many laps as you can, and you don't de-slot. That's easier said than done, though, because when you're driving head to head and you're right next to somebody, and you kind of get caught up in the kind of the thrill that you want to win that battle, and you can get caught up in it, and then one of you is going to de-slot. But no, you should try to just run your own race and not look at someone else's car. Yeah, the Storms are good. I have a couple of Storms. They're a little too strong downforce to me for at least the one I bought. The motor, I don't know. I could almost gun my controller full throttle with those Storms, and they don't come off the track. So they weren't as much fun to me. So Hector, I have a couple of cars. My really high-end Neo 2-ohm cars have ball bearings in them, but no, most of the club racing I do, ball bearings are not allowed. It's against the rules. So that's your answer as far as why not, because it's just not allowed in the class of cars that I run. When you get up into the unlimited type stuff, that's where you can run ball bearings. Oh, you mean check out? I thought he meant when you're driving. Do you watch the other cars? Yeah, I always look at other guys' cars if they're willing to. And in my group, we're it's not like we're racing nationals or anything super serious. We're not racing for money or anything. We just race for fun and for kind of, you know. So everybody's pretty free with how they build their cars and try and help each other out. And we all, we race an IROC class, a box stock class, sometimes spec stock, which is a Viper with a hard body, and we race spec racer and ceramic super stock. Everything we race is 6 ohm. We don't do any lower ohm like super fast classes. That's my club is not into that. So these are the fastest cars that we race, and these are 6 ohm hot stock balanced armatures. But these are pretty darn fast cars. I mean, these cars for a 6 ohm car, they do like 2.4, 2.5 second laps around my track, which is pretty much what my 3 ohm Viper modifieds do. So these things are running close to what a 3 ohm car would run. Heck, even my 2 and 2.5 ohm cars are only doing like 2 second, 2.1 second. So these are pretty impressive for what they have in them as far as the ohms of the motor. They're not a very low ohm, not super crazy downforce magnets. These are level 4. Well, these are ceramic magnets, and these are ceramic, which is even weaker than the level 4 Palmer magnets. It's not like we're running level 10 or Neo type cars. I don't know what you mean by voltage on depends on the winners. Well, I mean, we run our track at like 18 volts. All of our races are around 18, 18.5 volts. The track is set. And we pick the class of races, the class of car that we're going to race. You don't have to race in every one of those classes, but I mean, we did 5 different classes yesterday. Took us all damn day because my group never starts on time. The first race was supposed to start at 11:30. I think it was 1 o'clock or sometime after 1 when we actually finally got the first race underway. I got there when they opened around 10, and I didn't leave there till 6 o'clock at night. Didn't get home till almost like 7:45. So I got into the Wizard chassis when I started competitively racing at the club. I didn't really know any better or know about fusions. I had my Vipers with me for my first race, and most of the guys racing and all the guys doing real well had these blue colored chassis, and I'm like, what is that? And that's when I discovered what a Wizard Fusion really is. And it's just a little step above the Viper. It's actually maybe a little bit slower than a Viper, but the handling is amazing on these cars with how low they sit and the magnets that are in them. It's part of the reason I think Viper came out with the flared out magnets, was to kind of match the size of the magnets in a Fusion, because the stock Viper magnets are a little bit smaller than both height and width wise on or length and width on a Fusion magnet. So I got into these cars specifically because of my club racing, and that's what everybody. If I wanted to compete, I was never going to do it with a Viper, or not really. I mean, you can build a Viper really well and get close. Just I don't care how well you build your Viper, it just doesn't quite have the handling of these Fusions. So. Hey, Philly Angel. All right, so yeah, I would really like to put a little bit more spacing in here, but hey, Let me pop this out real quick. Now I'm gonna have to pull off the pinion. Hopefully he doesn't have it. Oh yeah, he's got this thing like glued on. I figured he had this thing glued on. That thing is on there. All right, for now I'm gonna put it back together the way it is. I really don't want to add the spacer back to the front because I don't think he had the top of the armature spaced as good as it could have been. He had too many spacers in there. In my humble opinion, anyway. I'll play around with pulling off that pinion gear later, but I have a feeling I'm going to ruin the pinion gear to try and... I could try and pry it off maybe with my pinion gear tool. I'll see if that... I could do that, but... I mean, it's not horrible. There's definitely a little bit more space in there than I would like. Yeah, I have one of Steven's. Steven was just on from Rooster Racing actually, and yeah, he sent me one of his Super Sevens. I have several Super Sevens, a couple from Terry and the one Steven built, and they're good cars. But they're not as good as a Viper, in my opinion. I personally, I would rather have a Viper V-Spec than a Super 7. That's just me. I appreciate all the work Steven did on his Super 7, and it's a great running chassis. But at the price that they're going for, $55, I personally think the stock Viper V-Spec runs a little bit better, and I could do a lot more to a V-Spec for $10 cheaper. So that's just me. $16-volt is a little low for these cars, personally. If you're running like T-Jets and lower downforce cars, like that, where's that car that I just built? That brass weight car. This car, I turned my track down to 15 volts when I was running this. And I initially ran it at 18 volts, which is where my track is set, or a little over 18, and it was a little too much. It was a little hard to control, but at 15 volts, this was fun. Let's see what kind of downforce we're getting with these magnets. See if one side's stronger than the other. See, I have like a 46 on one side, and a 48 on that side. Let's see if I can use this one. That's also 48 on that side, 47. Hopefully this side will stick to here, which it does good. So the two higher 48s work in high downforce mode. The side that sticks to the motor magnet is the side that you want to put facing the rails for high downforce. Um, well, you can get an aluminum independent front end from a number of places. Wizard, Viper sells the aluminum front end. These brass rear tires, and then I have some aluminum rear tires, were made by Stephen Petrush, and you could email him. I can give you Stephen's contact information if you want some custom. He makes dual flange 2.5 size, same size as like a Viper hub. So all these tires that you see here will work on his hubs, and he does really nice work. I mean, you can see how nice that hub is. And this one he did in brass. I can show you. This is one of his aluminum ones, a 3-spoke one. I really like that. This is another one. This one's actually made out of magnesium. He makes them out of magnesium, aluminum, and brass. This one's really light. This is actually lighter than the plastic hub that's like stock Viper. This is the aluminum one is just a touch heavier than. I mean, I'm talking like point 0.2 to 0.21. That's how close the aluminum one. And then this is like just a touch lighter than the plastic. I mean, this thing feels like nothing in my hand. But they're nice wheels, and they're just press on type wheels. So if you have a standard press, you can press them on. So yeah, Steven does excellent work. Yeah, I can give you his contact info, Hector. I'll post when I put this video up on when you see this video show up on my channel, I'll post his email address in the comments on here or in the bottom. I'll figure out how to do it. I look on my phone, but I'm using my phone to do the live feed. All right, Mike, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I'm not going to stay on that much longer. I've already been on for an hour and a half. I'm not going to be able to work on all these cars tonight, but I was curious how this Fusion was going to run after I tweaked it a little bit. So we're about to find out. These Fusions also are super smooth. They have really nice gear mesh. These are silly sponge tires. So it's silicone over sponge. They're coated. They put these, clean these pickup shoes real quick. Yes, it is a super stock Philly ceramic super stock car. These I usually run like 418s or 420s in and either 316 or 320 fronts, depending on the track. This was a car that was actually given to me by somebody yesterday at the race I was at. I think these are, yeah, these are like a 420. A little tight going into the 418. I see these are closer to 420s. A little bit looser on 422. Put these pickup shoes on these Fusions. There's a little bit of a trick to it, but not too bad. You just got to hold it down and make sure it doesn't slide forward and come out of the notch there. So I kind of hold it and then I make sure it's lined up with the tab, and then I use my tweezers to pry it forward just a tiny bit, and then I can push it down. But oh my God. Sending this little spring flying. It's hard to do this on with the camera in front of my face like this. It's restricting my view. The things I do for the YouTube crowd. So those are in. Let's see what kind of downforce this is pulling. Oh wait, that's the wrong meter. Yeah, so you can see it's not super high downforce. I mean, the ceramic magnets compared to like my Spec Racer, which is a level 4 Palmer magnets. Yeah, this car is pulling 154. Alright, I'm curious to see what this thing will do on the dyno now. It was just barely hitting 4 when I put it on before I started working on it. So woo! There it goes. Holy smokes. That is a lot faster. Just by tweaking the tension on the brushes. Wow, that's quite a difference. That is like, that's even faster than my super stock that I normally run. Look at how balanced that car is, though. Everything's not moving a smidge. No, they are ridiculously priced machines. I know. I believe me, I wasn't happy that I paid. I think even when I bought it, which is a number of months ago, it was 199. Now I think they went from 199 to 215. I think they're at 230 now for the. That's the cheapest one, the one I have, the Dino 2. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It should be like $100, maybe $150. I am pretty impressed with how this car is running now. So I'm looking forward to doing some times with this car. This might be my new super stock car. Well, actually, if you email the guy from VRP and he'll put you on the list, he will build you one. They're almost always out of stock, but if you tell him you want one, he will build it for you. I made the pin come out of my body. I guess I'm gonna be doing a little tape touch up here on this body. I'll do that later. Whoa, sorry guys, I just hit the camera, hit the phone. This is actually an armature from RPMs. This is a Roger Perselli armature. It's an epoxied, true balanced arm as well. It's like a $20-something armature. Yeah, see, my primary super stock is pulling like a 118. Whereas this one, I don't know if it's the magnets or just the rear end might be a little lower. This is only pulling like a 104. You can see what happens if I swap out the rear. I think this was a little bit lower. Even less. My car must have a little bit better magnets in it. Interesting. Yeah, I'm hitting almost a 120 with this other rear end. So they're very close. I think they're the same. I think they're both 420s on these rear ends. I might have to take these magnets and put it in that other car that I just built. Thing was almost hitting close to a All right. So, yeah, I still want to work on my looking at seeing how the brushes look on all the rest of my IROC set. This body that came on my free car says no freaking excuses. NFE. I went to www.nfe, but it said that the domain was for sale. So I don't know. I don't know what this car or body was trying to promote, but I mean, you can see how low, like, these cars sit so low to the track, like, you barely can't even see under it. And it's actually not touching the magnets, even with these really low tires. There's still just a tiny bit. If I was to put some marker on these magnets, it would probably just be putting a mark in the magic marker. I use like a silver Sharpie when I'm getting ready for practice and checking the height of my cars. This car is even lower. Those magnets are pretty much slamming the rails. These are 418s. You can kind of see it. Fronts are probably almost a little bit too low on this car. You see how the magnet's wearing more on the front. These are 320s on here. I like that body. Another cool body. There's flames on the blue. It looks pretty cool. Alright guys, I think I'm going to sign off for now. Been on for an hour and 45 minutes. Clean up my mess here a little bit. I'll work on some of these other cars probably either later tonight or during the week. I could put the Miller one away though. I gotta remember that's the one I just looked at. And this car. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This car I already tweaked. So these are what I have left to work on, and my fusion, my two main fusions, I gotta clean up a little bit too. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'll talk with everybody soon. Hope everybody has a great week. And we'll talk with everybody soon. Take care, guys. Bye.